Hello, and welcome to our podcast episode number 63, the epic conclusion to a post-apocalyptic saga of survival and redemption. I'm Thomas, and I am here with my old friend Timothy. Today we are going to talk about a film called Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Be aware, spoilers ahead. So Tim, what's your take on Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome?
Well, Thomas, I'd have to say that Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome was quite an interesting film. It definitely had its highs and lows, but overall I found it enjoyable and intriguing. The post-apocalyptic setting is as captivating as ever, with the added element of a dystopian society ruled by the powerful anti-entity.
Yes, indeed. The world building in this film was quite impressive. It's amazing how they managed to create such a desolate and dangerous landscape that feels both alien and familiar at the same time. And of course we can't forget about Master Blaster, who became an iconic character within the Mad Max franchise.
Well, I have to admit I found some parts of the film to be rather unconvincing, especially when it came to the children and their storyline involving a crashed airplane. It felt like they were trying too hard to add an element of heartwarming innocence, which didn't quite sit well with me, considering the harsh world these characters inhabit.
I can see your point there, Tim. However, I also think that the addition of the children and their storyline added a sense of hope and resilience to the film. It showed that even in the face of utter devastation and chaos, there's still room for human connection and growth. Plus, it was refreshing to see Mel Gibson step away from his typical action hero role and take on something more emotionally complex.
Well, I suppose you have a valid point there too, Tom. But overall, I found Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome to be an enjoyable film that offered some food for thought regarding the human condition in times of crisis. However, I'm curious to know what you think about Tina Turner's performance as Anti-Entity. Did you find her menacing or mesmerizing?
Well, Tim, I must say that Tina Turner's performance as Anti-Entity was truly captivating. She managed to portray a character who was both ruthless and charismatic at the same time. Her presence on screen commanded attention, and it was hard not to be drawn in by her commanding voice and intense stare. As far as I'm concerned, she added another layer of depth to an already complex film.
Agreed, Thomas. Tina Turner's portrayal of Anti-Entity was indeed compelling. She managed to bring a certain level of sophistication and charm to a character who could have easily been reduced to a one-dimensional villain. Her performance added a layer of complexity that helped make the film more than just an action flick.
Yes, I think it's safe to say that Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome was a successful addition to the Mad Max franchise. It may not have been as gritty or intense as the original two films, but it offered something new and unique in terms of storytelling and character development.
I would definitely agree with you there, Thomas. While the film had its flaws, it was still an enjoyable experience that left me thinking about the themes it explored long after the credits rolled. And let's not forget the iconic moments like when Max disarms Blaster by using a whistle, or when he refuses to kill Master Blaster despite being ordered to do so by Anti-Entity. These moments added an extra layer of depth to the film that I found quite engaging.
Absolutely. Those moments are some of my favorite parts of the movie. They show just how far Max is willing to go in order to follow his own moral compass, even when it goes against the rules set by those in power. It's this kind of complexity that sets Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome apart from other post-apocalyptic films.
I couldn't agree more, Thomas. The film is a testament to how far one man will go for what he believes in, even when the odds are stacked against him. And that's part of what makes Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome such an enduring classic.
So, Tim, On a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the worst and 10 is the best, how would you rate this film?
Well, Tom, after giving it some thought, I'd have to say that Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is definitely a solid 9 out of 10 stars. It may not be perfect, but it's an enjoyable and thought-provoking film that offers something new for fans of the genre while still paying homage to what came before.
I can appreciate that, Timothy. For me, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is a 7 out of 10 stars. While I enjoyed many aspects of the movie, there were certain parts that didn't quite work for me as well as they could have. But overall, it was an entertaining watch and one worth discussing in detail.
Well said, Tom. And speaking of discussing in detail, what do you think we should talk about next?
How about we move on to the topic of whether or not Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is the best film in the franchise? I'm curious to know where you stand on that.
That sounds like an interesting discussion indeed, Tom. Let's dive into it then.
Well, Tim, one of the most interesting tidbits about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is that Mel Gibson actually turned down a role in another big blockbuster at the time just to star in this film. He was offered the lead role in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, but he chose to take on the role of Max Rockatansky instead.
That's quite fascinating. I can only imagine how different the Indiana Jones franchise would have been with Mel Gibson as the lead character instead of Harrison Ford. It goes to show just how much faith George Miller had in this film and its potential to become a classic.
Absolutely, Tim. And speaking of casting, did you know that Tina Turner almost turned down the role of Auntie Entity? She was initially hesitant because she had never acted before and didn't consider herself an actress. However, after meeting with George Miller and seeing his passion for the project, she agreed to take on the role.
That's quite a revelation. It just goes to show how important it is for a director to have a clear vision and be able to convey that vision to their actors in order to get the best performance possible. It's also impressive that Tina Turner was willing to take such a big risk and step outside of her comfort zone for this film. While we're on the topic of casting, did you know that Mel Gibson actually did his own stunts in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome? He broke his wrist during one of the scenes where he is being chased by a group of children and falls from a moving vehicle. Talk about dedication to your craft.
That's amazing, Tim. Mel Gibson truly gave it his all in this film, both as an actor and a stunt performer. It's no wonder that Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome has become such a beloved installment in the franchise.
There's one more piece of trivia that I find quite interesting about this movie. The character of Master Blaster was originally supposed to be played by a single actor. But due to the physical demands of the role, they had to cast two actors instead. Katie Byron played the blind part of Master, and Allison Barrett played the deaf part.
That's really cool, Tim. I think it's great that George Miller was willing to go above and beyond in order to make sure the character of Master Blaster was portrayed accurately. It just goes to show how much thought and care went into this film.
Well, Tom, I have one last piece of trivia for you. The famous two men enter one man leaves scene where Max fights against Blaster in a metal gauntlet was actually supposed to be a different kind of test. In the script, it was originally meant to be a test of intelligence where Max had to solve a puzzle while being attacked by Blaster. However, due to budget constraints and time limitations, they had to change the idea into what we see in the movie. So there you have it, Tom, some interesting trivia about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I must say that it's always fascinating to learn more about the behind-the-scenes workings of a film and how different aspects can change over time.
Absolutely, Tim. These tidbits give us a glimpse into the creative process and show just how much effort went into making this movie the classic that it is today. I think it's safe to say that Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome has stood the test of time and continues to be an entertaining watch for audiences around the world. So, Tim, what do you think we should discuss next?
Well, Tom, how about we move on to analyzing some of the themes presented in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome? I'm curious to know your thoughts on whether or not this film is a commentary on societal collapse and survivalism.
That sounds like an interesting discussion indeed, Timothy. Let's dive into it then.
The soundtrack is one aspect I didn't get into as much as I would have liked. During our previous discussion about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, for me it was one of the most memorable aspects of the film. The music has a certain energy and intensity that really adds to the overall experience. It's a blend of electronic music, tribal beats, and rock anthems, which perfectly captures the post-apocalyptic atmosphere of the movie.
Yes, indeed, Timothy. The soundtrack is definitely one of the highlights of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Composed by George Miller and Brian May from Queen, it's a mix of haunting melodies, pulsating rhythms, and powerful guitar solos that create an intense and immersive listening experience. I especially love how the music changes depending on the scene. For instance, during action-packed sequences, the soundtrack becomes more urgent and frenetic, while during more reflective moments, it takes on a more melancholic tone.
That's true, Tom. The music really does have an incredible ability to set the mood and enhance the emotional impact of certain scenes. One of my favorite examples is when Max is fighting Master Blaster in the Metal Gauntlet. The music becomes more intense and almost primal, mirroring the ferocity of the battle between these two characters. It's as if the soundtrack becomes another character in the movie, driving the narrative forward and adding depth to the storytelling.
Agreed, Tim. The soundtrack of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is a testament to the power of music in filmmaking. It enhances the visuals and emotional resonance of the movie while also creating a unique identity for the franchise. I think it's safe to say that without its iconic soundtrack, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome wouldn't be nearly as memorable or impactful.
Absolutely, Tom. The soundtrack is an integral part of what makes Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome a standout film in the series. It's clear that a lot of thought and care went into its composition, which only adds to the overall quality and enjoyment of the movie. So tell me, Tom, is there any other aspect you'd like to discuss about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, or shall we move on to another topic?
I think it would be interesting to delve deeper into the themes presented in the film. What are your thoughts, Ty?
That sounds like an excellent idea, Tom. Let's explore the themes of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome in our next segment.
Well, Timothy, one of the most intriguing aspects of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is its exploration of power dynamics and leadership. We see this played out through the characters of Master Blaster and Auntie Entity. On one hand, we have Master Blaster, who is physically powerful but lacks the mental capacity for complex thought or empathy. Then there's Auntie Entity, a charismatic and cunning leader who wields power through fear and control.
Surely, Tom, these two characters provide a fascinating study of how different individuals can attain and maintain power in a post-apocalyptic society. It's interesting to see how their respective strengths and weaknesses play out throughout the film, especially during their interactions with Max.
Speaking of Max, I think it's worth discussing how his character has evolved throughout the Mad Max franchise. In the first two films, he is portrayed as a lone wolf who survives by his own wits and strength. However, in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, we see him taking on more of a paternal role towards both Sprague and the Lost Boy. He becomes less focused on personal survival and more concerned with guiding others to safety and instilling values like empathy and morality.
That's an excellent point, Tom. Max's transformation from a solitary figure to one who cares for and protects others is quite remarkable. It highlights the film's themes of redemption and selflessness, which are often overlooked in other post-apocalyptic stories that tend to focus on survival at any cost.
Another aspect worth discussing is the film's portrayal of children as both victims and perpetrators of violence. We see this in The Lost Boy, who have become feral and violent due to their harsh upbringing under Auntie Entity's rule. On the other hand, we have Sprague, a young girl who is initially scared and vulnerable, but ultimately proves herself to be resilient and resourceful.
That's true, Tom.
The film presents a nuanced view of childhood in such an extreme setting.
It challenges us to think about the consequences of violence and oppression on future generations, while also showcasing the capacity for growth and change even under the most difficult circumstances.
Well said, Timothy. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome certainly has a lot to say about power dynamics, leadership, and the human condition in general. It's a film that continues to resonate with audiences decades after its release, thanks in part to its captivating themes and memorable characters.
Agreed, Tom. The film's ability to tackle complex issues while still delivering an entertaining story is what makes it such a classic. It's a testament to the skill of George Miller and his team that they were able to create a post-apocalyptic world that feels both authentic and filled with potential for exploration.
So, Timothy, we've discussed quite a bit about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Is there any other aspect you'd like to touch upon before we move on to our next topic?
Well, Tom, I'm curious about your thoughts on how Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome has impacted popular culture since its release. Do you think it was influential in shaping the landscape of post-apocalyptic cinema, or did other movies come along and surpass it in terms of cultural significance?
That's an interesting question, Timothy. I believe Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome has had a significant impact on popular culture, particularly in the realm of post-apocalyptic films. It paved the way for other movies like The Road Warrior and Terminator, which borrowed heavily from its themes and visual style. Additionally, its portrayal of a dystopian society run by corrupt leaders and lawless gangs became a staple in many subsequent films within this genre.
I agree, Tom. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome definitely set the stage for more complex post-apocalyptic narratives that went beyond simple survivalist stories. It explored themes of power, morality, and redemption in ways that had not been seen before in this type of film. And let's not forget about its iconic imagery like the Thunderdome itself, which has become synonymous with post-apocalyptic settings. So what do you think, Tom? Is there any other aspect you'd like to discuss about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome before we move on to our next topic?
I guess one more point that comes to mind is the film's portrayal of women. While it may not be perfect, I think Auntie Entity and Imperator Furiosa are two strong female characters who defy traditional gender roles in a post-apocalyptic world where women are often reduced to mere objects or victims. These characters show that even in the face of chaos and violence, there is still room for women to wield power and make their mark on the world.
That's a great point, Tom. Both Anti-Entity and Imperator Furiosa represent powerful female figures who refuse to be defined by societal norms or gender expectations. They are complex characters that challenge our preconceived notions about what it means to be a woman in a post-apocalyptic setting.
Truly, Timothy, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is not only an entertaining film, but also one that raises important questions about power dynamics, survivalism, and the human condition. Its impact on popular culture cannot be overstated, and it continues to inspire new generations of filmmakers who seek to explore similar themes in their own work.
I couldn't agree more, Tom. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is a true classic that has left an indelible mark on cinema history. It's one of those films that you can watch over and over again and still find something new each time. So with that said, what do you think we should discuss next?
Let's move on to discussing another movie in the Mad Max franchise. I'm curious about your thoughts on Fury Road, Timothy.
Fury Road indeed. That sounds like an excellent choice, Tom. We can delve into the themes of feminism and environmentalism present in that film, as well as compare it to Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Yes, indeed, Timothy. Let's explore how these two films reflect different aspects of George Miller's vision for the Mad Max universe while still remaining true to its core themes. I'm excited to continue our discussion on this fascinating series of movies.
All right, Tom, let's wrap up our discussion on Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I think it's safe to say that this film has left a lasting impact on both of us, from its iconic soundtrack to its exploration of complex themes. There's so much to appreciate about the movie.
Yes, Timothy. I can definitely agree with you. The film is a testament to George Miller's skill as a director and his ability to create a compelling narrative within such a unique setting. It's not often that we find a post-apocalyptic story that explores themes of power, leadership, and the human condition in such an intriguing way.
That's true, Tom. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is more than just an action movie. It's a film that challenges us to think about our own society and how we treat each other in times of chaos. It shows us that even in the most extreme circumstances, there is still room for hope and redemption.
Agreed, Timothy. The film's message of resilience and survival in the face of adversity is one that resonates with audiences long after they leave the theater. And let's not forget about its incredible visuals and stunts, which add to the overall experience of watching this classic movie.
I think we can both agree that Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is a masterpiece in its own right. One that deserves to be celebrated for its contributions to both cinema history and popular culture. It's a film that will continue to inspire generations of filmmakers and fans alike for years to come.
I couldn't agree more, Tim. As we wrap up our discussion, I want to thank you once again for joining me on this journey through the Mad Max universe. Until next time, my friend, let's keep watching these films and sharing our thoughts with our viewers.
Thank you, Tom, for having me as always.
It was a pleasure discussing Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome with you today.
We've covered so much ground in our conversation, but there's still more to explore in future episodes of Tim and Tom's Film Nights.
Yes, indeed, Timothy. We have a lot of exciting movies ahead of us on our watch list. And until then, remember to keep the conversation going by commenting, subscribing, and liking this video. Let's continue sharing our love for films with the world.